Hi, and welcome to another one of the podcasts, Mind Management Mentors. What is Mind Management Mentors all about? Well, actually, as a mind management coach, I've been helping clients such as CFOs, CEOs of businesses, teenagers, overcome the mind and the stumbling blocks that we have. So that's what Priority Mind Management is all about, is not only coaching clients to become mind management coaches, but also helping people manage their minds. Now, I'm a big believer of if it's in the mind, it can be managed. However, today's podcast is completely different because it's not just mind management, it's gut management. So, Simon, introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, Cuddy. It's a pleasure to be here. So my name's Simon Grant. I run Health and Fitness Scotland. We're a multi-health, holistic health clinic and business. I started out as a physiotherapist. I've been one for 25 years. And I pretty quickly realised that the body is not all there is. And if that's all I was treating, I was limiting myself. The strange thing about being a therapist is that people allow you into their personal space. Now, Cuddy, if I walked up to you in the middle of the street and we were having a chat and I stepped closer, you might get a little uncomfortable. Now, if I step right up to your face, you'd back off. As a physio, I've immediately got permission to be inside people's personal space. Why? Because they trust me. I'm a professional. I'm going to be helping them. And what happens when you allow anybody else in your personal space, and there's very few people in your life you allow in there, you tell them things. And everybody starts to tell me about their life. They just offload because everybody wants somebody to listen to them. And how many people in the world have nobody to listen to them? They just want to tell their story. Everybody wants to jump in first with their story in a conversation. You're always thinking about the next thing to say. But the key is just to listen. So everybody starts to tell me what their life's about, what the worries are, what the problems are. And over the years, I realised that pain is not just in the body. It's in the mind, it's in the gut, and it's all linked. So I decided to train as a hypnotherapist. As luck would have it, the universe gave me a friend of a friend who was a excellent hypnotherapist, and I trained with him, Bob Burns, and learned the Swan hypnotherapy. And then I've further trained as a nutritionist. So we cover all aspects of health. It's all linked. But today we're talking about the gut. And Cuddy, you talk about the mind, but the indigenous cultures always said that the gut is the first mind, the big brain.
I love that. I love that. That was a big introduction, by the way, Simon. That was absolutely fantastic. That was amazing. That really does genuinely tell the world what you do in this podcast. Now, you mentioned there, as I started out as doing a physio, you're allowed to be into people's personal space. There's a lot of talking going on, and you don't believe that there's a separate entity between the mind and the body, and that has to be correlated holistically. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah. So allopathic medicine, which is modern medicine, tends to segment us into the mind, the body, the gut, a kidney, a liver, a limb, and they tend to treat the symptoms more than the actual causes of the disease. And what is a symptom? A symptom is your body telling you that there's something wrong. It's not the actual disease. So if you treat the symptom and you clear the symptom, you've not sorted the disease and it just goes deeper, becomes more chronic, and it comes out somewhere else. So you have to treat the origin of the problem, which is not often the acute symptom you have now. It's quite often something far in the past, even as far away as at birth, when you were born. Many things can be caused there, especially with the gut, especially.
I love that. That's something that we're always talking about with the mind management coaches, is that when somebody comes to you with anxiety, that's the symptom. That's not the problem. Anxiety is not the problem. So anxiety is over here. We want to look all the way over here on the belief, the symptom. That's exactly what the root cause. Always go back to the root cause, which is what that logo is all about. Is we work on the root cause of many people's challenges. So the reason I wanted to get you onto this podcast is I saw your TikTok, and this is why I want to talk about it, because I thought I would never have thought about this. But we're going to talk about, if it's not in the mind, it's in the gut, right? So tell 100%. Us what your premise of the gut is, the gut.
Okay, so the gut is where almost 90% of your immune system is. The gut is where 90% of the living cells in your body are. In fact, if you were to take a human being and you were to dehydrate them down to 2 piles of DNA, and I have one in this hand and one in this hand is 20%, this hand is 80% of you. The 20% is human, the 80% is bacteria. We are bacteria. 80% of us is not us. Without them, we're dead. They keep us alive, they communicate with each other, they're on our skin, they're in our hair, they're on our nails, in our gut, in our brain, and every part of our body has bacteria in them and on them. And if you keep them healthy, then you will be healthy. And if people listen to this can think about in modern life, we napalm our bacteria. Antibacterial soaps and sprays, antibiotics, the chemicals we put in food, the chemicals we put on our body, the chemicals we clean our house with, they're all antibiotics and they all destroy bacteria in general. So think of the antibacterial cleaners that we have that kill 99.9% of bacteria. We need them. So you kill them all, you can't be healthy. If you damage the gut bacteria, which you do with antibiotics, you can't be healthy. And it's a very, very finely balanced mechanism in there. You need the good ones to be in charge, not the bad ones. And most of our modern life does exactly the opposite of what we need, which is to put the bad ones in charge.
Ooh, that is a powerful start there, Simon. Wow.
They have the power.
Okay, Cuddy. So pathogenic bacteria, which are in your gut anyway, in fact, the good, healthy bacteria in your gut actually use them. They use some metabolites for helping their digestion. If you get to the stage where these bacteria are in charge and the good bacteria have been damaged through many possible things, could be antibiotics, it could be chronically eating, having a poor diet of processed food, then the bad guys get in charge and they communicate with your brain up the vagus nerve, which connects the gut and the brain. And because they feed on sugar, and every pathogenic bacteria feeds on sugar, cancer cells feed on sugar, fungi feed on sugar, the yeasts feed on sugar. They want that sugar and they want you to eat the sugar. So they tell your brain, feed me sugar now. So when you get your cravings and that sugar addiction, it's not you. It's nothing to do with you. It's the bacteria in your gut telling your brain that's what they want because they're now in charge. If you can heal your gut, and it does take time, I can talk about that in a minute, the good bacteria become in charge. They feed on complex carbohydrates. They feed on the monosaccharides, easy digestible, healthy sugar. They feed on protein, fat, usually from an animal source. That's what they want you to eat, and that's what they'll tell your brain they need. So you'll stop craving the sugar.
Oh, that is bang on. Right. Okay. So I'm not in a fasting state at the moment, obviously, because the chin's come back. So I always find myself, I have a better resistance to wanting to eat sugar when I'm on apples, when I take apple cider vinegar, not the supplements, because I think they're full of sugar anyway. I saw some apple cider gummies and I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense because there's sugar in the gummy and there's an apple cider. So I take the Brags in a spoon in the water, and in the morning I would take that. And that seems to make me less crave. Is that like a placebo effect of, I'm taking apple cider vinegar, I don't feel like I want to eat as much sugar and I can get into a fasting state quicker. I don't know why I have that need less to eat, especially emotionally, when I'm on apple cider vinegar. Is there any connection there, Simon?
100%. So there's two things going on there. So a really good quality apple cider vinegar has been fermented. And every old culture, every indigenous culture fermented food for a very good reason. It produces two things, produces probiotics, which are the good bacteria in your gut, but also pre-digests the food. And what that does is it breaks down the structure, breaks down the fiber, and it makes it into a form that your gut can actually use. Most modern food is undigestible to us as humans. If we go way back in the past, so way back in the past, the majority of people's diets were protein and fat, meat, protein, fat, and dairy. That's where they got most of the calories from. As they're hunter-gatherers and they moved around their part of the planet, the fruit and veg were of a very different variety. They're usually smaller, harder, sour, hard to digest. They didn't have a massive amount of that. It'd be very seasonal. If you come back to Scotland, where we are, fruit and veg here would be available 4 months of the year because we have rain, especially this year, 6 months of the year, easy, if not 9 months of the year. So they had to preserve that food to store it throughout the winter so you could eat it. What did they do? They pickled it, they preserved it, they dried it, and they fermented it. These massive probiotic masses that would feed our guts, make them more healthy, and allow the digestion to take place. But for most of the winter, they would eat the meat, the fat, and the dairy. Point about dairy, all the dairy in the past was raw, unpasteurized, unhomogenized. What was that product? Full of enzymes, full of good bacteria that fed your gut. Now, all milk is pasteurized in commercial milk. It is used from a cow called an A1 cow, which is A1 protein, which is a particular casein protein that's really not good for your gut. The modern dairy cow is a human hybrid that has 3 times the yield of the old-fashioned cows. So that's why they use more profit. Pasteurize it, kills all the enzymes. So you drink pasteurized milk, your body then uses its enzymes to digest the lactose, which is most people have an irritation to. So eventually you run out of enzymes and you become lactose intolerant. If you drink raw milk, it's full of its own enzymes, helps your body digest the lactose. If you ferment it, it digests the lactose completely. So fermented dairy would be cultured butter, yogurt, sour cream, kefir. Now, people think about all these fermented dairies as the same, but they're not. They each have a completely different microbial profile, and they do different things. So you should be having them all in your diet. And the number one thing to know what you're getting is to make them yourself at home, and it is easy as pie. It's not difficult. You
said pie. You had me at pie.
There we go. Fermented dairy pie. There you go. That's a whole other topic. But you can get raw milk in Scotland through some legislation because of some unsanitary practices in the past. It was banned quite a long time ago, but through Paradox, you can get it sent up from England by mail order. Go figure. So I get it sent up in bulk by mail order, and it's a beautiful product. It's like going back to the old bottle, the silver top milk you used to get in your doorstep a generation ago. It's full of cream.
Silver top.
Has mouthfeel. It's proper old-fashioned milk. So pasteurization, you heat it, kills the enzymes, it's no good. Homogenization is when they mix the milk really hard to mix all the fat in so it doesn't separate in the bottle on the supermarket shelf. That's just because it looks better. But it's not how it should be. It's not a natural product. So if you're drinking pasteurized, homogenized milk, and I'm sorry, dairy industry, it's a non-food. There's no two ways about it. And it's not doing you any good.
I only have skim milk.
Yeah, disaster.
I know, and that's why I'm talking about it. So, but I only have it in tea. I don't really have milk on anything else. I don't put it in. I don't even have protein shakes anymore. I stopped taking protein shakes a while ago, because it used to. Well, I'll be honest, it used to make me fart all the time. But I did find fruity protein drinks. So it was beef protein. And it was like a raspberry drink, and it was about 30 grams of protein. I've forgotten the name of the brand, and I found that a lot better for me.
No casein, no lactose. So
yes, that's right. No
dairy intolerant.
Protein. Yeah.
So yeah, if you'd had a raw dairy source, then that would have probably been okay. So if anybody is dairy intolerant or think they have a sensitivity to dairy, if you can get hold of some raw milk, then that's your first step. If you ferment it, you should be able to tolerate it. But the number one key to introducing any new food, any new thing into your diet is go really slow and steady. There's a really simple little sensitivity test that you can do. If you take something you think you might have a problem with, take a drop in liquid form, or if it's dry, mix it with water. Just when you go to bed, place it on the inside of your wrist. Allow it to dry. If you want to cover it with a plaster, go to sleep. You get up in the morning, check it. If it's red and irritated and angry, that shows you've got an irritation and you're slightly sensitive to it. Now, your skin is the biggest organ in your body. It's one of your main detox organs. Everything you put on your skin goes straight into your bloodstream in 0.25 a second. So every bit of moisturizer, every bit of skin cream, every bit of makeup, everything you put on your skin goes whoosh into your body and it's absorbed. So it's going to have an effect. So that bit you put on your skin is going to get sucked in. If your body's got any problem with it, it's going to show you on that skin. So if you don't, and it's fine, you can start to introduce that. But you don't just suddenly go and glug down a pint of milk or a massive cup of yogurt. Take a teaspoon. You try that and see what happens over a couple of days. If you don't get bloated, you don't get diarrhea, you get none of the skin sensitivities like eczema, no autoimmune irritation, things like asthma, then absolutely fine, and you build up and you build up. And that you want to apply that to anything new you put in your diet. Your body is not going to be able to lump it in. So if you've got any digestive health problems, adding things in quickly, your body won't cope with it. Add it in slowly and see what happens. Now, the problem there is that we're programmed in modern life to be impatient and not to allow things to happen slowly. Nothing in your body happens fast. No healing happens fast. No adjustment happens fast. It's slow. Everything people did in the old times was slow and steady because they had time. So if you expect things to happen quickly, they're not going to. If you're at the state of your gut being really, really unhealthy, it can take 18 months to 2 years to get yourself to a place where you can start to add a normal diet in. So people think that, yeah, we're just going to take my antibiotics and that'll sort me out and it'll be absolutely fine. Your antibiotics completely destroy your gut microbiome and leave you in a place where the bad ones get a foothold, and that can lead on to all sorts of chronic health problems in the future. If you think about what happens in your gut, so your gut lining is like a tube from your mouth all the way through to your anus. In the intestines, it's lined with these little finger-like protrusions called villi, and that produces a massive surface area for your gut to digest and use your food. On these little villi, there's cells called enterocytes, and they digest your food, allow it to go into your bloodstream in particles that your body can use. If your gut's not healthy, the bad bacteria, and there's many, many types of them, and that includes the bacteria, it's protozoa, there's fungus, there's the viruses, there's parasites. They're all inside us all the time anyway. We're just not aware of it. The good bacteria use them in the right amounts, but once they get out of control, they take over completely. Now, some of them have little root-like protrusions that squeeze in between the cells on these villi and open them up. And that's where you get leaky gut. There's holes there that shouldn't be there. And because these bacteria in your gut, the bad ones you don't want there, produce all sorts of toxins, they then flow through these holes with undigested particles of food and go directly into your bloodstream. And they either go to your liver or your heart or your lungs. That's the first protocol. And your immune system, which is waiting there like an army all the time, sees these things inside your bloodstream and goes, oh my God, they shouldn't be there, and attacks them. And that produces an immune reaction. And what does that come out as? Asthma, eczema, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, dizziness, foggy brain. And these are the acute symptoms. If they start to happen over a long period of time, your body's incredible at coping with change and coping with disaster and holding things together. Like everything, we've got a threshold where we can't go past it. And once you go past that, it becomes a chronic ill health condition. So asthma, chronic asthma, all the chronic inflammatory conditions, the rheumatoid arthritis, the brain conditions such as even Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, heart disease, cancer, stroke, they're chronic inflammatory conditions. They don't happen like that. Just because you have a heart attack in a second, it's built up over years to get there. And one of the main contributing factors is an unhealthy gut, which is releasing toxins into your body over a long period of time, and your body can't cope with it. So if you have any of these conditions and you're on lots of medication, which again are going to treat the symptoms and produce their own issues, you need to look to the gut as one of the main priorities to heal it, to shut up these little holes in the leaky gut, and allow your body to digest the food properly to get the nutrients that you need, bang down the numbers of pathogenic bacteria so the good guys can get a foothold again and get them all under control, and you can start to get the nutrition that you need. Because if you don't, and you're eating an unhealthy diet, that condition is just going to go on and on and on, and it's going to lead ultimately to an unhappy, unhealthy life.
Wow. Simon, you are clearly knowledgeable in this. By the way, Simon, that was amazing. So, a few things that would help people with the bloating, guys, ladies. Sir, did you mention psoriasis for leaky gut? Leaky gut is a psoriasis thing as well, isn't it?
Yeah. Most skin conditions can be linked back to the gut. Your gut is your skin is the biggest expression of your health, so it's showing you what's going on. So if you've got dry, flaky skin, generally means you're not hydrated and you've not got enough healthy fat in your diet. The cirrhosis and the eczema are expressions of autoimmunity. There's something irritating going on, and they can come and go really quickly. But there's other thing I want to mention about where does your gut health come from originally? You get it at birth. So as you're born, you pass down your mother's birth canal, and you suck in the vaginal bacteria, and that's how your gut microbiome was seeded. So your gut is sterile at birth. You suck that in, it seeds the gut, and off you go. Now imagine what happens if your mum already has an unhealthy gut and her bacteria is not balanced. What are you getting straight away? An unhealthy gut from day one. Add to that C-section. This is not said in any way to make anybody feel guilty about pregnancy and birth. It's just the facts and something to think about, to give you knowledge to be able to sort things out if you're able to. So C-section, you're not getting the bacteria seeded. Breast milk is created specifically for that baby, and it changes from feed to feed depending on the baby's saliva. There's an interaction between the bacteria on the nipple and the saliva and the mother's ability to develop breast milk, and it changes all the time. If your mother's got an unhealthy gut, some of that's going to come through the breast milk. If you're not breastfed, then you go straight onto a cow's milk or soy milk formula. That's not the nutrition a baby's gut needs. The protein and the fat profile in breast milk is ideal for a baby's growth. Cow's milk is ideal for a cow. Soy milk is ideal for nothing. Never touch it with a barge pole. It's just poison. So your gut's seeded at birth. Say then you have a high carbohydrate rich diet and you're straight onto processed food from day one, and you have a lot of stress and trauma within the early years of your life. So your fight and flight mechanism is fired up straight away, which is firing adrenal and cortisol hormones into your body, which are stress hormones, which reduces digestion to start with. You're eating terrible food that's linking to your brain, telling you want more of it and more of it. What sort of start is that in life? So a lot of people who have gut issues, a lot of them are started from day one. Now, controversially, if you have an unhealthy gut as a baby and you're given a large number of vaccines, now a healthy immune system should be able to cope with these one at a time with the recovery time in between. An unhealthy gut can't, because it's going to create an immune reaction, isn't it? And that could well be an unhealthy immune reaction. So what I've studied and read is that the way to do it, if you're going to choose to give your child vaccinations, is to do them in tandem. So one after the other with a big gap in between to allow things to calm down, not multiple at once, which the baby's body, fairly immature immune system can't really cope with. That could be one of the reasons why we're getting lots of problems at a young age now. And the levels of cancer and heart disease, etc., and autism are climbing and climbing and climbing. There's multiple reasons for that, but certainly the gut, excuse me, the gut health is part of that. So you're starting life with an unhealthy gut. The modern Western diet is a complete and utter disaster for health. It's carbohydrate rich. All the commercial food companies are producing processed food. Way back in the 1950s, there was a food scientist called Ansel Keys who produced a bit of research that said saturated fat is bad. It's causing heart disease. For thousands of years before that, humans have survived on animal protein and fat quite okay, without any chronic health disease. So what did the food companies do? They saw this and they're all about money. Now, fat's expensive. They took the fat out, but fat is also mouthfeel and taste. So what happens then? Put sugar in to bring that taste into the food, and our sugar consumption went through the roof. Artificial sugar, which is a processed food. Heart disease, cancer, all chronic inflammatory disease has upticked from the 1950s. Saturated fat and cholesterol have been called the enemy. They're essential. Every cell in your body and cell membrane has cholesterol. Your brain uses 25% of the fat and cholesterol that you take in. It's a cholesterol-hungry organ. If you're lowering your cholesterol and you're taking statins to lower cholesterol, your brain's not getting fed. They've now been linked to Alzheimer's. You need really healthy, saturated animal fats in your diet on a daily basis to fuel your health, to feed the gut, and to feed every aspect of your organism. And if you don't have it, you can't be healthy.
Simon, it's very rarely I shut up in a podcast, but wow, am I... Simon, you're dropping facts right now. So, what's the best way to get the cholesterol and the good cholesterol and the good fats that people need? What's the best way? Because from what I understood, because I'm going to ask you about vegetarians as well, because what about oat milk and soy milk and all those? I knew you were going to say
Yeah,
that.
none of it. You don't want to go anywhere near it So plant milks in itself is not a problem. Okay, if you make it yourself. So oat milk you can make yourself, coconut milk you can make yourself, nut milk you can make yourself. But quality is the key with all these things. You want to get as good quality as you possibly can. So nuts, we buy nuts from the shop, we think they're healthy, but they've already been shelled. The fats in nuts go rancid really quickly. So the package inside a plastic packet that's got chemicals inside it to keep them fresh. But the fat inside these nuts is already going to be off. If you're going to buy nuts, you need to buy them in the shell them yourself, organic, that haven't been sprayed. All pesticides, all chemicals that are sprayed on plants, although they're there to increase yield and keep pests off, what are they? They're antibiotics. And where do they go? Straight into our gut, and they have an antibiotic effect, and they cause gut disruption, imbalance the bacteria. So if you're going to drink nut milk because of vegetarianism or veganism, you need to make it yourself with products that you know where they came from. Soy milk, I'm sorry, you just shouldn't touch it with a barge pole. Soy is unless it's organic and fermented. So soy is promoted as health food. Yes, it is in the Asian countries, but what do? They ferment it. Tempeh, soy sauce, all the fermented soya products, and it's broken down by those bacteria into a product your body can use, and it's full of good bacteria. Commercial soy milk is a GM food that's heat treated. It has gums added into it to stabilize it. It's not a natural product. If you look at the cartons, it's something like about 5% soya, the rest water and additives and fillers. It's not a health food. It's an unhealth food. And every time you put something in your body that's not a real food, that's not grown in real healthy soil, there's not an animal that's eating that real food grown in the real healthy soil, you're putting in a processed food. And the word process it's not a bad thing, because what's fermentation? It's processing. So indigenous cultures process their food, but in a way that increased its health. So if you look at fermented vegetables like your sauerkraut and your kimchi, and you can ferment almost any vegetable. You can ferment almost all of them. What does that do? It's lactic fermentation. It's anaerobic. There's no oxygen. There's no rotting. So the bacteria are breaking down the fiber in those plants into a digestible form. In a liquid that's full of incredible bacteria that are just going to feed your gut. Vegetable is another interesting one. So vegetarianism, you mentioned that. You can be healthy as a vegetarian if you're consuming really good quality protein and fat in the form of eggs and raw dairy and nuts, seeds. Generally, the better if they're soaked or sprouted or fermented, because you're releasing and pre-digesting the unhealthy stuff. So fiber is promoted as a fantastic product for our body that's going to feed our gut. And yes, it does, as long as the gut's healthy. If your gut's not healthy and it's inflamed, what does that fiber do? It sandpapers the inside of the gut and inflames it further. The bacteria, the pathogenic bacteria, feed on it and produce the toxins. So if you've got an unhealthy gut and you're on a vegetarian or vegan diet, it's absolutely impossible to be healthy. You need to step back from eating a healthy diet and heal your gut first before you can eat the healthy diet. That's the number one takeaway here is an unhealthy gut cannot be healthy no matter what you put in it unless you're going to heal the gut first. And unfortunately, vegans, and very controversial, I'm going to say that you can't be healthy as a vegan because vegetables are detox foods. And if you're a vegan and you have no healthy protein and fat from an animal base in there, you're continually detoxing. Now, fasting is a fantastic thing in short spells of time, as long as you feed in the bit in the middle. So if you were to do intermittent fasting constantly, you have to feed yourself properly in the intermediate bit because your body's just detoxing. Long-term fasting has been shown to be extremely unhealthy.
Wow.
Your body is losing minerals, losing vitamins, hormone levels are all fluctuating. A lot of women who fast constantly stop the periods. For guys, testosterone levels can start to drop off a cliff.
And I thought testosterone and growth hormone went up.
Growth hormone temporarily, yep. So if you're fasting, you will get a temporary.
I've been stronger at the end of a fast than I have if I've gone to eat and then gone trained.
Yep. So there's the key: end of a fast. So as long as you're doing 24 hours, 48 hours, occasionally, That's incredible because your body is going to go into the detox, the break things down and the get rid of mode and clear itself out. But then you've got to feed yourself again.
So I thought, from my understanding of fasting, and by the way, you're clearly more of an expert than I am, a 3 days fast helps you get rid of all the dead cells in your body, your cancerous cells, and can do your reset. And doing a 3-day fast once a month, twice a month is probably one of the most healthy, beneficial things you can do. True or false, according to Simon Grant?
100%. I agree with that completely. It's when people are fasting while on a strict vegetarian or vegan diet because they're fasting all the time.
Oh, Simon Grant dropping the knowledge today. Right, okay, fantastic. So we talked about apple cider vinegar. So this is controversial, and I'm not meaning to be controversial because that's not the point of it. But I'm curious as to why Bill Gates has bought the apple cider vinegar brags. And then he's putting in apples that have got all the pesticides in that will make the apple cider as good as it was.
He's a businessman, above all.
Right.
Number one, at baseline, he's a businessman. Can you say he's for himself and not for the good of humanity? There's so many different viewpoints out there that you can't categorically say one way or the other because you're not Bill Gates. You can't see inside his head. And as you well know on this podcast, Cuddy, you can assume everything you want about somebody else, but unless you're in that person's shoes, you can't make the judgment.
I love that, Simon. So let's talk sauerkraut, kimchi, and other pickled stuff. So I do try, me and my wife, and I am a big guy, and sugar's always the problem for me. And now what you've mentioned, if my gut's not in a good place, I'll want more sugar. And I have been craving more sugar recently, and I know that. Now, normally I was training an awful lot, but I haven't trained for a while, and I've not fasted for a while, and I've just been going through different stuff. So I have got into I don't know why, but my taste buds have changed. I'm not really a fan of curry and chili, but recently I'm like, no, I like hot, spicy stuff. So I found a Baxter's chili kimchi. Is that right? A chili kimchi?
You possibly.
Am I saying it right? Kimchi?
Yep. Kimchi, yep, that's right. Yep.
Right. And it's chili. It's chili kimchi. So it's got peppers in it. It's quite spicy. Oh my God, I adore it. So kimchi and sauerkraut, pickled cabbage, and pickled onions I've been eating an awful lot of. What does that do for the body?
So again, all these things feed your gut. But if you're coming at a place from where your gut's not healthy, you can't just lump them all in straight away. So if you were to, so there's everybody's different. So the thing is to listen to your own body first. That's the key. Your body's telling you all the time what's going on. So if you're craving something, it's either the bad bacteria are telling you they want that, or your body's needing that. So your gut's telling you what it needs. So cravings are generally due to an imbalance or lack of something, and your body needs it, so it tells you, and that's what you want. If you're going to heal your gut, and if you have digestive symptoms such as bloating, discomfort, diarrhea, constipation, and we're all going to be different. So one person's diarrhea is another person's constipation from exactly the same situation because our genetics are different and we're born in a different way. And if you think of the chances of us being here at all are trillions to one of that egg and that sperm meeting at that moment. So, and all the generations back, we're just a mix of all those genes that come out in that moment. So you are you. You can't compare yourself to anybody else. So because somebody says, oh, this happened to me and I did this and this worked for me, yeah, you can nod and say thank you and it's interesting information, but you are you and you need to do what's right for you. If you're going to add that stuff in, they are really strong and they're probiotics basically. So same as you would get a really good quality probiotic from the health food shop, all fermented food is a probiotic. And they have multiple strains of these bacteria, which are generally in our gut already and should be in there. Now, the research shows that even though you're putting probiotic foods in, you're never going to get your gut back to a state that it was before it had a problem, because that's its natural beginning when all these bacteria that are right for you had their home, had their place. Once you disrupt all that, although you're putting the good bacteria back in, they're not your good bacteria. They're not the original bacteria, so they'll help and they'll reestablish the balance and they might heal your gut. But if you stop taking them, your gut will generally go back in the direction it was before because it's not the balance it was to begin with. You're not the gut you inherited. what probiotics often do is they cause a pathogenic die-off. So there's good bacteria get in there, and there's actually war goes on inside, and they kill all these bad bacteria, but they don't just disappear. So as they die, they release their toxins into your system as they die, that they're holding within them. And that can create a massive immune reaction. So a lot of people find as they start to heal their gut and they start to put in the probiotics, they feel horrendous, absolutely terrible. The migraine comes back, the headaches come back, the skin rashes flare up, the gut problems just boom, explode. So they go, oh my God, this is a disaster, it's not working. And they go straight back to their old processed food and bad diet problem. That's why it takes 18 months to 2 years. So if you're adding any of these things into your diet, you need to go slow and you need to go steady. So like with you would start with sauerkraut. That's one of the most gentle things, or beef, or beetroot kvass. 1 teaspoon. See what happens. If you have a flare up, stick at a teaspoon for a few days until that all calms down. Then go to 2 teaspoons. That's good. 3, 4. Eventually you want to be having around about half a cup to a cup of every type of probiotic food. And variety is the key. So you don't just do one, you're going to do them all. But you build up really, really slowly. And you may get to a stage where you're feeling fantastic, and 6 months down the line, your body goes, okay, I'm feeling really good now. Let's get rid of this thing. Because health's like layer of onions that you build up over an entire lifetime. And at that moment, you might fall off a cliff again, health-wise, for a couple of weeks. So what would you do? You would go backwards to the basics of the diet. And the absolute basics of gut healing is meat broth. And so quickly talk about that, because there's meat broth and bone broth. Now, everybody knows about bone broth.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate healing thing. They're 2 completely different things. So a meat broth is a meaty bone with the joint and all the cartilage in a pot with salt, pepper, maybe a couple of vegetables, fill with water, between 2 and 4 hours of cooking. What that does, it takes the collagen, all the mineral, lots of the minerals out into the solution with the fat, and it's really soothing for your gut. Every aspect of your body is collagen. Everything, the hair, the nails, the gut, your nose, your eyeballs, your joints, everything is made of collagen. It's the base building block of our body. So you're feeding collagen in a form that's bioavailable. It's suspended within the broth, goes into your system and gets sucked into everywhere that it needs, and it's super healing for your gut. So if you truly want to heal your gut, you're going to make the basis of any healing diet meat broth. Bone broth is a different animal altogether. Bone broth is a 24-hour plus simmering. It's not necessarily meaty bones. It can be any bones. It can even be the bones left over after your meat broth or after you've done your roast. It's going to suck everything out of the bones, right down to the marrow. It's also going to suck in quite a few things like glutamic acid and things that are actually histamine high. So if you've got any histamine intolerance, a bone broth can flare that up big style. So in a gut healing diet, bone broth's not going to come in till way in the future, until you're in a good place, until your histamine levels are low down. Meat broth is the #1 key, and you want to have it every day, multiple times a day. And what you can also do is you're starting to add in the probiotic, the fermented food. You can cool the broth, and you can mix your teaspoon into the broth and then have it that way, because it's going to be suspended within this healing therapeutic liquid that's going to help it be absorbed. It's not going to have as big an effect, and that allows your body to absorb it nicely. And your body tells you. So if that teaspoon flares things up, just give it another week on the broth, see what happens, add it in again. It doesn't mean it's a disaster. It just means your body's not quite at the stage yet to take it forward. I would guarantee that an awful lot of people listening to this are having gut issues, because I'm noticing now in my clinic that even people coming in, and I do a full assessment on everybody now, the whole of health, 75% have got IBS. And they're all on omeprazole, and they all think it's normal. No, it's not. IBS is not a normal state. If you have IBS, it means you're at the footsteps of chronic ill health in the future.
Wow.
And you really, really need to pay attention to it. So if you're suffering from any of the digestive stuff, like the bloating, the diarrhea, and the cramping, and the constipation, and the foggy heads, and the headaches, and the migraine, it's all your body telling you. It's responses to toxicity. And you need to get your body sorted. Otherwise, later on in life, you're not going to have a very, very pleasant time. And we talk about the mind all the time, Cuddy, and they're completely connected. So the way you feel affects how your gut is, and the way your gut is affects how you feel, and it's just a big circle.
Yeah.
And you can't separate them at all.
Wow. Simon, you're blowing my mind. I knew this was going to be a good podcast, mate. I did. Now, I'll tell you why we actually got on context. I saw one of your TikToks, and this is what we have to talk about now. And I know we've talked about a lot, but chicken balls.
Chicken balls.
I saw you eating a chicken testicle.
Yes.
Right. So
Well,
tell us about chicken testicles and why we should be eating chicken testicles.
so if you go to the supermarket and you buy chicken, what you get is a chicken. Sometimes you get the giblets, you might get a neck, you might get a couple of other bits and pieces, maybe the heart if you're lucky. That's because it's a modern thing. The modern chicken is grown in 90 days inside a big shed and it never sees light and it's fed artificial food and it's pumped full of antibiotics. It's not a healthy thing. It's not nutritional. So we keep our own chickens, hens, ducks, and guinea fowl. Here, chickens and hens are the same thing.
No,
Oh,
when it
and
comes to
confused.
balls, they're not.
And we eat it. We eat our own. So there's a video on my TikTok you'll see where I'm holding a chicken and then we roughly go through the processing. And even one generation ago, that's what everybody used to do. They'd have a few chickens. The roosters are useless. The law of chicken keeping is if you're breeding them, 50% are going to be roosters. But come springtime, they just become a hormonal pain in the backside. So they go in the pot. And inside every chicken rooster, funnily enough, is a pair of balls. Now they get taken out in the chicken factory and you never see them because, you know, we're a bit too gentle these days to cope with these slightly nasty bits and pieces. What are the best part of the chicken?
The balls.
The balls. They're full of testosterone.
Is it
They're full
really?
of great hormone. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Full of testosterone. Well, where's the chicken's testosterone? In its balls.
So
So
how
if
many
you-
chicken balls do you eat?
Well, there's two in every one, so every time I have one, I have two.
Wow. So what does,
Oh.
because you're quite a slender, generally quite, I mean, you do exude health in all fairness, I want to see you. So is there a difference in bloating? Is there like an upper bloating, lower bloating? Can you tell the difference in people? Is there a difference to the bloating or the digestive system? I'm asking because I don't know.
Yeah, well, bloating is bloating. So if you have
Yeah.
any bloating at all, it means you got a gut imbalance somewhere. The bacteria in your gut are not balanced. So and there's bacteria from your mouth all the way down into your stomach. Your stomach acid is really, really strong. Many people have low stomach acid. And there's a big paradox here because that will eventually lead to reflux. So there's not too many bacteria in your stomach. There's a few in low levels because the stomach acid is so high. So if you have a gut dysbiosis and the stomach acid gets too low, it's actually going to start to allow those bacteria, which are like the Clostridia and the Candida are the two main ones. The pylori as well, they're going to start to grow there where they shouldn't do. And they're going to start to get into the gut lining. They'll also start to grow around the sphincter at the top of the gut, which is a little circular muscle that shuts and it stops the acid coming up. Now, because they grow there, they're going to start to disrupt that little muscle and all the balance around there, and it's going to start to open when it shouldn't. That's going to allow some of the stomach acid and the undigested food to regurgitate up, and it's going to irritate you. Now, so what does the doctor do there? They will generally give you a omeprazole, which is an alkaline substance, and it helps your stomach to have less acid. So what's that going to do? Allow the bacteria to get a bigger foothold and the reflux to get worse. So you're going to need more omeprazole. What you actually have to do is increase your stomach acidity, the opposite of what you actually think. You talked about apple cider vinegar. It's a very good way of doing it. A really good plan is to drink it in a glass of water about half an hour before you eat. It's going to increase your stomach acid a little bit and help you digest your food. If you get in the habit of doing that, it's going to help your digestion a lot and stop the bloating. But the bloating just means that your gut bacteria are not imbalanced. They're creating toxins, they're fermenting your food, they're creating gas. So it's either you're eating things that your stomach can't cope with, or the bacteria are just in such an imbalance that they can't digest the food in the right way. So you need to concentrate on healing the gut. And
can I ask you a question, Simon? Because honestly, I didn't want to cut you off because I've listened to everything you've said. And I hope this is not a stupid question. It might be a stupid question, but is there a difference between stomach and the gut?
Yeah, so the stomach is the big.
The gut.
Yeah, so the stomach is the big pouch that your food goes into. So you have enzymes in your saliva that start to pre-digest the food as you chew. So we should always chew our food really properly. That's start the digestion. It goes down the gullet, into the stomach. It starts to get digest a little bit more in there. And then it goes down into the upper intestine. And then it goes down to the lower intestine. Now, if I were to take your guts out and spread them all out, there's about 150 meters of gut in there. When the human body's mind-blowing, incredible. If I reached inside you just now, Cuddy, and I took out every blood vessel in your body, and I put them together end to end like straws, 1.5 times around the planet from inside your body. That just blows my mind every time I think about it.
Ah, yeah, I know that. So there is a difference between
Yeah.
stomach and gut. That's
Yeah,
wow.
yeah,
So the gut's
definitely.
the intestines.
The gut is the gut's the general term for everything, but the stomach is the first pouch, the big pouch where the food goes into, starts to be digested and broken down by the highest acid in there. And then it goes through another wee sphincter at the bottom, opens, that goes down into the large intestine.
So the
And then
bloating is in the intestines then.
yes, yes, and that they expands out because the bacteria changes all the way down. They all have different places, they all have
Yeah.
different jobs, they all do different things depending on where they are. And if that balance is not there, you're just not getting everything in your system that you need.
Wow. Simon, this was an amazing podcast. I'm not even gonna lie. I knew when I'd seen you eating chicken balls, I was like, we need to I wanted to find out why you were eating chicken balls.
Here's the other thing there.
Rooster balls. That's brilliant.
One other thing to mention there is, so I talked about the collagen in the
Yeah.
chicken. The collagen's not just coming from the chicken. You need the stuff in your broth that really is full of collagen. It's old-fashioned stuff that everybody used to use, and it's what people go "Bleh" at now. Chicken feet. Chicken feet are where the collagen's at. That's why in old soups they put in the chicken feet, the pig's trotters, the pig head, because that's where the jelly is. A really good quality meat stock. The next morning, once it's been in the fridge, if you turn it upside down, it's not falling out the tub.
Yeah.
A wobbly jelly. That's the gelatin, that's the collagen, and that's the bit that really, really heals. And so if you're making a chicken stock or meat stock and it's pure liquid the next day, just means there's not quite enough collagen in it. You need the joints, the collagen, the gristly bits. And these are the bits you need to chew on. Chew the end of the bones, get all the gristle off, get the cartilage. That's the healthy stuff. That's where all the good things are.
Wow. Unbelievable. That was amazing. Simon, thank you so much for jumping on a podcast. I know we spoke about it last week and you've come on. Thank you so much. So if it's not in the mind, it could be in the gut. And most of the depression does come from the gut. So that's absolutely fantastic.
Yep, 100%. 100%.
I can't
It's
wait.
an absolute pleasure.
Simon, is there anything else you want to tell the world?
Yeah, the only person you can look after is yourself. You need to be the number one person that you love in your life, you look after, because you can't give to anybody else at all in any way unless you come from a place of plenty, full of health and full of energy. Otherwise, you're just going to burn yourself out. So your number one priority in your life, yourself before you sort out anybody else.
Wow. I love it. Simon, thank you so much for jumping on this podcast. That was an absolute game changer for me. I put down so many notes. So if it's not in the mind, it could be in the gut. That is the name of the podcast. Genuinely hope you've enjoyed this. If you're watching this podcast and you want to get in contact with Simon, his email is on the YouTube links. I'll put your email on there so people can email you, Simon. And as always, big love from Cuddy. And if you want to make your mind a priority, get in contact. As always, I'll see you on the next podcast of If It's in the Mind, It Can Be Managed, the Mind Management Mentors podcast. Big love from Cuddy.